Welcome to math. Alright, so in math we have been doing place value, and you guys have been doing really well. You know how to write those numbers all those different ways. We compare numbers. We've even added some tens and hundreds blocks to other numbers, is what we've been doing for the last 2 days. And today we're actually going to be working on skip counting and some skip counting patterns. And now when I say skip counting, I know that you can skip count by probably 2s and 5s and 10s and probably even 100, because those are skills you worked on in kindergarten and first grade. And when I mean skip count, I mean, like, I bet you know, like if I say 2, 4, 6, 8, I bet you know what comes next. Yeah, 10, 12, 14, we can keep going. That's skip counting, when you skip numbers when you count. So that was skip counting by 2 because we were skipping 2 numbers every time. That's why it's called counting by 2s. You can skip count by 5 too, when you skip 5 numbers every time, like 5, 10, 15. What comes next? Yeah, 20, 25, 30, 35, you can keep going. You all know how to do that. You can skip count by 10, when you skip 10 every time. 10, 20, 30, what comes next? Yeah, 40, 50, 60, 70, and you can keep going. That's skip counting. And like I said, I know that you can skip count by 2s and 5s and 10s, but today we're going to be skip counting, but it's going to be with larger numbers probably than you've ever skip counted before. So we're going to learn a way that we can figure out what would come next and what we're counting by using some patterns. So I'm going to go ahead and flip on the board so that you can. Alright, so here are some much larger numbers, and we're going to see if we can figure out what is it skip counting by, what pattern is it kind of following. The first thing I want you guys to do is look at these numbers and see if you notice anything the same about them or anything different. Are you noticing some things that might be the same about those numbers? I did too. I noticed that they all have a 1 in the 100 spot. And I noticed that they all had a 7 in the 1 spot. Yeah. Yeah, I noticed that they all had a 1 in the 100 spot, and I noticed that they had a 7 in the 10 spot. Yeah, all of them did. But it was not the 7 in the 10 spot, I mean 7 ones. They have the 7 ones all the same. The 10s are what's different. And look what it's doing. 3, 4, 5, 6. I bet you could figure out what would come next. This one is going to be counting by 10s. It's counting by 10s because that's what's changing. The 10s are changing. So this is how I would figure out what would come next. I know that it's going to have a 1 and a 7 and a 1 and a 7 in the hundreds and the ones, because they all have a 1 and a 7 in the hundreds and ones. But then to figure out what would come next, 3, 4, 5, 6, 177, 187. Yeah, 137, 147, 157, 167, 177, 187. There we go. We looked at the numbers to figure out what was the same, and we figured out what was different, and we used that pattern to help us figure out what they were counting by and what would be next. That's all we have to do when we have these bigger numbers. Let's try another one. Take a minute to look at these numbers. See if you notice anything the same about them. See if you notice anything different about them. Did you notice anything the same? Yeah, I did too. I noticed that they both have, or not both, they all have 4 10s and 5 ones. They all have 45 at the end of them because they have 4 tens and 5 ones. So I know that these numbers that are missing are going to have 4 tens and 5 ones because it's kind of a pattern. The things that are the same are going to stay the same. But let's look at how it's changing. It's got 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700. So there we go, 245, 345, 445, 545, 645, 745. This one was counting by hundreds because the hundreds were changing every time. The hundreds changed, so we were counting by 100. We're counting by hundreds. This isn't so bad, is it? All right, let's try one more, and then I'm going to let you try the next one. So look at these numbers. See if you notice anything the same. See if you notice anything different. Well, okay, what do you notice the same about these numbers? Yeah, they all have 2. Oh, no, they don't. Whoops. I thought they all had a 21, but they don't, do they? They all do have a 1, though. They have 1, 1. Oh, and they all have 400s. That's what's the same. So they all have 400s and 1, 1. So I know that these numbers are probably going to have 400s and 1, 1. It was the tens that are changing, so we are counting by tens. 2, 3, 4, 5. This one's going to have 6 tens, and this one will have 7 tens. 421, 431, 441, 451, 461, 471. And you notice even when I say them, some of the things are the same and some are different because the tens were changing in this number. We were counting by tens. Good job. So even counting with big numbers when we skip count is not that hard if you know to look for a pattern of what's the same and what's different. I want you to try this one all on your own. See if you can figure out what is the same, what's different, and see if you can figure out what the next 2 numbers would be. All right, remember you can pause the video if you're not ready and then restart it when you are ready. All right, for this one, I bet you realized that they all had 8 tens and 9 ones, right? And the hundreds were what was changing. So the next number would be 789 and then 889, right? Yeah, this time we're counting by hundreds. Good job. That wasn't so bad, was it? All right, now on this one, I've given you this one because it might be a little bit tricky. And if you see one like this on your paper today, I don't want it to trick you, okay? So look at this one and think really hard. See if you can figure out what's the same and what's different. And we'll see if we can figure out what's next. Okay, have you figured out some things that might be the same? I noticed that every one of them has 4 ones. Every one of them. So I'm betting that these numbers will have 4 ones, of course, because they all do. And you know, I thought that they all had 200s, and then I looked again, and these don't have 200, they have 300s. So are they going to have 200s or 300s? That was confusing to me. And I bet it confused you a little bit too. And all we really need to do is think a little bit, because this one is a tricky one. They're trying to trick you. If we notice that these have 200s, and then the tens, well, all of the tens are different, and it's going 8, 9, and then it goes to 0, and then it goes to 1. Oh, I think I see why it went to 0, and why we had to change the 100. I'm going to draw blocks just to kind of demonstrate why. here is the number 294. And since it looks like I'm counting by tens because this number had one more 10, it just got 10 more. If I give this number 10 more, this is why that number changes hundreds, because look, now I have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. So I took all of these and I turned them into one of these hundreds blocks. And now it's 304. That's why this one changed. It was trying to trick you. And that's kind of how the number system goes with place value. It goes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and there's no 10, because when you have a 10, that means you have another block of whichever one it is. So you have to start again with 0. So then 0, 1, and then, this one's going to be 324, because it goes 0, 1, 2, and this one will be a 3, and it's going to have 334. The reason that we went from 2 to 3 was because the tens made it have another 100. So this one was kind of tricky, and I understand if it tricked you a little bit, but it was counting by tens, and it made us even change the hundreds because we got so big. Oops. This is another one. Oops. There we go. This is another one just like that one, or pretty similar to this one. Take a look at these numbers and see what's the same about them, see what's different, and we'll see if we can figure out what the next two numbers would be. I will warn you, this one is a tricky one too, or it's going to be a tricky one. Alright, so what was the same, what was different? Yeah, I noticed that too. I noticed they all had 5 ones. And I noticed that they all had 100. So I'm betting that, these numbers are going to have 105 ones. It looks like the tens are changing. We're counting by tens. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Uh-oh, I can't put 10 in there. That's not right. This is the tricky one right here, this one. I'm not sure what to put. 155, 165, 175, 185, 195. I know I'm adding another 10. So if I add another 10 to the 9, how many 10s will I have? I'd have 10 10s. But think about what we just did. I'll draw 195 again. Here's 195. If I put another 10, now I've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Uh-oh, I've got to make another hundreds block because I have 100. So the next number is going to be what? What number is the next one going to be? Yep, 205. It made the hundreds change because I got 10 tens, and when you get 10 tens, it makes 100. So that's why that one was tricky. And remember, when we're doing our numbers, it goes 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it looks like Miss Shay is calling me. I'll call her right back, Miss Shay. Okay, so 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and there's no 10. We just start back at 0. If I did another number, we'd be here. 215, then we'd have 225, because remember, all I'm doing is changing the tens. 235, right? 245. I could keep going and going, but it's just changing the tens until I have to make another 100 like that one. Okay. All right, so that is today's lesson. You are just looking at the pattern of the numbers, what's the same, what's different, and then you can figure out what would be next if you can figure out what's the same and different. It's just skip counting. But since it's with these bigger numbers, it makes it a little bit harder. So I think you guys are going to be fine. You have a page in your book that you're going to do now. And it is just what we were working on. If you have any trouble, though, you can message me, give me a call, and I'll help you any way I can, okay? Okay, bye, guys.